Welcome to this video where you will learn how to automate Microsoft Dynamics 365 application with Avo Assure. As you advance through this learning, you will be able to list the prerequisites for automating MS Dynamics 365 applications using Avo Assure, identify the steps involved in the automation process of MS Dynamics using Avo Assure, determine the steps to follow to use element identifier feature of Avo Assure, to prioritize an element attribute during execution. Define the best practices for automating MS Dynamics with Avo Assure. Before we dive into the automation process, a few items must be ensured as a prerequisite. First, learners must have access to the latest version of Avo Assure. Next, verify that the local machine is configured and running the most recent version of Avo Assure client, ready for use. The next prerequisite is to make sure to have a basic understanding of MS Dynamics and how it functions to be able to automate it. Lastly, make sure to have access to an active MS Dynamics application for automation. After ensuring the prerequisites are in place, let's focus on the steps followed for MS Dynamics automation with Avo Assure. There are 5 crucial steps. The first step is project creation, which, as the name suggests, begins with setting up a project on the homepage of Avo Assure to test for the MS Dynamics application. This setup serves as the foundation or a home to automate multiple test cases for the said MS Dynamics application. The next step is one of the major milestones of this automation process, capturing elements from the business application. Elements are captured using multiple methods. Capturing elements help identify elements on the application to be tested for designing accurate and efficient test cases. The third step in this process is test case design. Here, the captured elements, either from the AUT or pre-existing repositories, are used to design test steps. The elements are used with predefined actions in Avo Assure to build functional test cases. Once created, test cases are debugged to detect and fix any error, ensuring the MS Dynamics application runs as expected. Execution configuration is the fourth step, which involves configuring the execution environment. This includes defining testing parameters and confirming that all prerequisites are in place. This configuration, known as the execution list, which further ensures a smooth and consistent automation process with dependable results. Report analysis is the final step that helps analyze test reports. These reports are available in multiple formats in Avo Assure to provide a comprehensive view of test performance and outcomes. These insights further help identify defects, monitor progress, and validate the overall success of the automation. In MS Dynamics, most of the elements' properties change frequently, so regular expressions are used in Avo Assure to ensure zero failures occurs. How does Avo Assure help in achieving this, do you ask? Well, Avo Assure implements regular expression in CSS selector during execution. These expressions further have 3 functions. First is contains function. This helps fetch the constant value present within the variable. Second is starts with function, which helps identify elements based on the first value within attribute, which is constant. Third is ends with function, which helps identify elements based on the last value within attribute, which is constant. Beside regular expression, users can prioritize element by dragging them. This prioritization of element attributes helps in faster and efficient execution. Let's take a sneak peek at the scenario that is being automated. For the demo in this learning, we will automate MS Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. Let's quickly go over and understand the basic interface of MS Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation application. The table elements of MS Dynamics application consist of 2 parts. The upper half of the screen is known as header, where commands for the actions are provided. The lower half of the screen is referred as body, where the fetched out data gets reflected. In this use case, we will automate creating an online campaign to change its status from in progress to closed using sales and marketing module. What is the process flow, do you ask? The process flow starts with campaign creation by entering required information such as campaign name, objectives, and basic setup details of the campaign. The second step is describe the campaign type, where the type of campaign are being created is defined. This description can include options like promotional campaigns, awareness drives, lead generation activities, or any other specific type. Clearly identifying the campaign type helps in tailoring the next steps accordingly. The third step is campaign details, where we fill in all the necessary details, such as setting the target audience, choosing platforms or channels, and configuring any other essential parameters required for execution are usually filled. Next is the maintain status phase, where the current status and key details of the campaign are tracked to monitor its progress through various stages. In this step, each and every element, such as campaign planning phase, execution phase, paused, or completed, are closely checked to ensure regular status updates for better tracking and management throughout the campaign lifecycle. Fifth step is planning the campaign by providing the necessary information and status required to take the campaign progress to the detailed planning phase. In this step, comprehensive information such as campaign schedules, communication strategies, content plans, etc., are provided for a smooth and successful campaign execution. Lastly, the final step is to close the event. This step comes into the picture when the campaign objectives is achieved or the campaign duration has ended. In this stage, event is formally marked close by, updating the status, analyzing results, and archiving all necessary data. Let's now go through a demo and learn the step-by-step process. First, select the created project from the project section in the Avo Assure homepage, and then navigate to the Design Studio. Upon clicking Design Studio, the element repository screen appears. Click the plus icon on the left pane and select Create New Folder from the options to create a folder. Rename the created folder with an appropriate name as a best practice. Click the ellipses across the created folder, hover the mouse on Create Repository option, and select Web as application type to create an element repository for web-based AUT. Alternatively, users can also press a shortcut Shift+E+W on keyboard to create an element repository for web application. Let's name the repository as Launch Dynamics to store the elements of the launch page from the AUT. Click the Capture Elements button from the center of the test case workspace and select a browser from the options. For this scenario, let's select Microsoft Edge and select Capture button from the Select Browser pop-up. This launches the Avo Assure Client Capture window to display the captured elements from the AUT. Now, paste the copied MS Dynamics application URL in the Enter URL field as Step 1 and click on the Navigate button on the Avo Capture window to launch it in the selected application. Next, select the Manual Radio button as Capture Type from the Capture Element option as Step 2. This enables manually capturing the elements upon hovering over, clicking the element on the AUT. This method provides full control on the capturing process, allowing only to capture the required elements. Users may also select Visible to instruct the client to auto-capture all the visible elements on the screen of the AUT. All to instruct the client to auto-capture all the visible as well as hidden elements of the AUT. Upon selecting Visible and All Capture method, users can use Capture Type dropdown to specify capturing a particular type of element, like a text box, table, actionable visible elements, etc., from the AUT. Similarly, when selecting Manual method, users can select wait time using the Delay dropdown to set a custom wait time before element capturing begins. Using this feature is particularly suggested when dealing with transient UI elements like pop-ups that disappear on interaction. So adding wait time prepares the AUT state, such as triggering a pop-up and capture elements without disruption. Once the users have selected the capture method, click on the Capture button. Upon clicking the Capture button, users will notice the state of Capture button being changed to Stop button. This button is used to stop the capturing process. After clicking Capture, click on the elements that need to be captured. A point to note here is navigate through the AUT in the same sequence as it would be done when manually performing the steps. This is to ensure that all the elements are captured in logical order. Click on the Stop button once one element is captured. This stops the capturing and display the captured elements on the Capture window. Along with the captured element name, the identifies properties and attribute value associated with the elements can also be seen. A point to notice is that once an element is captured, Step 3, Verify and Add Elements, appears in the Avo Capture window. In this third step, the Locate checkbox allows users to quickly identify a specific element from the element pool. This is particularly useful when more than 4 to 6 elements are captured and stored in the Avo client window. Alongside Locate, there is a Delete and Add button that helps remove selected elements. The Add button, whereas saves the selected elements to the repository. Repeat the steps. Click the Capture button again to capture and add all the elements needed for this repository. Once captured, select the checkboxes of all the elements and click on the Add button to add them to the element repository. Once added, all the captured elements can be seen on the element repository window of Avo Assure. In this window, users get the element list containing all the element name, their type, and screenshots associated to the elements. In the right-hand side, the number count of all the elements added in this repository can be seen. Use the search feature to search for any element added in this repository. Once the elements are verified, click on the Save button to save them. The Add Element button can also be used to add more elements to this repository. So users can either capture elements from the AUT or manually create an element using the Create Manually options. Now, let's create another element repository. Click the ellipses alongside the Dynamic 365 folder and select Create Repository and Web from options. Rename the repository and click Capture Element button. Select a browser from the options and click the Capture button again from the Select Browser pop-up. Next, bring up the page on the AUT whose elements are needed to be captured from. Select the Capture method and hit Capture from the Avo Client Capture window. Click on all the elements that need to be captured and hit the Stop button on the Avo Client window. An interesting thing is, at any point users want to rename the captured elements, then they can click on the element name on the Avo Client Capture window and edit the name. Click on the Add button after editing them. Verify the added element on the Element Repository window of Avo Assure and click Save. Similarly, create additional element repositories as needed and capture the relevant elements from the AUT to reflect the scenario. For instance, updating the campaign status from In Progress to Closed. Once all the repositories are created and the elements are stored, verify the elements and save them to be used in the test cases. Navigate to the Test Case tab. Click the plus icon on the left pane to create a folder. Alternatively, users can also click the Create Folder button on the work pane or hit the Shift+F on the keyboard. Here again, they can create the folders using Avo Genius, the Smart Recorder, or manually. Rename the test case for easy identification and hit Enter. Click the ellipsis across the folder name. Select Create Test Case from the context menu. Users can also hit Shift+T on their keyboard or click the Create Test Case button on the work pane to do the same. Name it per the application to be tested. Please note, users can create multiple folders and test cases anytime by clicking the plus icon across the test case's folder structure. Let's name our test case based on the page to be automated that is Campaign Online. Next, click the Create Test Step Group button. This brings up two options. One is to use Recorder, and another is Add New Test Step Group. Proceed manually. Add a name for the test step group as Launch Application, and validate the application type in the pop-up that appears. Once done, click Create. Now that a test step group is created, let's add test steps. The steps can be added from repository using Add from Repository option, or users can select manually from the options. For this demo, let's use the repository. Click Add from Repository. All the elements repositories created for this project appear on the left. Drag and drop the captured elements from the repository to the display panel. The test step information is displayed with the step details like element, actions, input, and output values. Do note the options available across each test step that appear when the mouses hover over it. It displays options to add or delete a test step, or click the ellipses to provide more details about it after saving it, like descriptions and remarks on its expected result to determine its pass or failure. Users can add more test steps as needed, and there are 3 different ways of doing it, and they are: first, by clicking the plus icon across the test step group's name, which will add a step on top of the list. Next, by hovering over an existing test step in a group and clicking the plus icon that appears on its last column, this will add a step just beneath it. Finally, click the plus icon below the step group. However, this action provides the option to either add test steps in the existing test step group or create a new one. The first two options helps add one or more test steps in the existing group, but the last options helps create a new test step group. Let's click the plus icon and add in a test step. Select an element name and action for it. A point to note is that the input and output values can be edited as and when needed. Let's click option 3 to add a test step group. Add a name for the group and choose its application type to create it. Drag and drop elements in it. Please note that the edit option can be chosen to edit the input and output values as needed. Let's add all the needed test step groups and test steps similarly and save them all. Upon saving the test steps, a message that you have now saved your test cases successfully displays on the screen. Interesting to note are the options across each test step group's name. The Make Reusable icon allows users to store the respective test step groups in the reusable library, which can later be reused in different test cases within this project. Users can utilize the plus icon to add a step to the group and use the null icon to skip a step when debugging the test step group. Let's now see how elements are prioritized in Avo Assure using Element Identifier. For this, first click on any existing element in the repository and click the edit icon on the extreme right column of the selected element name. Upon clicking the element, Details opens up where ID, names, their priority attribute, and values can be seen. Set all the value to none to focus solely on the CSS selector field. Now, in the CSS selector, use regular expressions instead of a fixed path to make the selector more flexible. For instance, use an asterisk out to apply the contains function. This helps match elements even when part of the value changes. Let's see how to capture a new element using this method. Click on Add Element, select the browser as Microsoft Edge, and click Capture from the Select Browser pop-up. Once the Avo client capture window loads, paste the Dynamics URL in the Enter URL field and click Navigate. This opens the AUT for capturing. Select Manual as Capture Element mode from the Capture window and click on the element which is to be captured. Then, click Add to move it to the element repository. Verify the element in the element repository and click the Save button. Once added, click the Edit icon for the new element to open the details associated to the element. The CSS selector is none initially. Navigate back to the AUT and locate that element to inspect it to define one. Click on the elements to open its sources. Click the Select icon from the extreme top left of the source window and then click on the element again. This fetches the anchor tag associate to the element to be used. Users can also look for unique tags or attributes such as A tags or class names. Copy a part of the class name and use it with a regular expression, for example, a class navlink. Make sure to paste the link within inverted commas. This selector will find any anchor tag where the class contains navlink to ensure flexibility if the full class name changes over time. After entering the selector, set all the attribute values to none and click on the Save Properties button. This saves the properties and highlights the use of just one strong selector to locate the element during execution. Now navigate to the Test Case tab, where this element is to be used. Click on the test step, after which a step is to be added, and select Add Step manually from Options. A new test step gets added. Now select Marketing as Element and click as Action. Save the test case to debug it. Before debugging, clear any previous logs and close all the open browser. Then click Debug, select a browser and test step group and begin debugging it. As the flow executes, the logs will confirm that the elements were identified using the CSS selectors created with regular expressions. Once the test is complete, navigate back to the test case. Click the eye icon beside the element to verify that it was successfully located using the provided custom selector. Users will also see that only the CSS selector field is populated, and all other fields are set to none, keeping it clean and focused. This approach also helps ensure stable automation. even when the UI is dynamic or frequently updated. Once the test cases are ready, click the Execution tab at top to navigate to it and land on the Execution List page. Click the plus icon from the Execution List pane and select Create New Folder. Rename the folder as Campaign Creation. Click ellipses across the folder and select Create Execution List from the options. Give it an appropriate name. Next, click the Add Test Case link at the bottom left corner or the Add Test Case button at the top. The Test Cases panel will pop up. Drag and drop the campaign online test case in the Execution section. Users can add multiple folders and test cases just by dragging and dropping them. Upon selecting a test case for the created execution list, all the details like name, input value, and action on test case failure appears on the screen. This action can be chosen upon a test case's failure, added to an execution list using the On Failure drop-down fields. The execution profile type remains functional by default. Users will also see the configuration pane appear for the execution list created, which can also be recalled using the configuration icon, if closed. Here, the desired test case can be selected for its execution arrangements, like the choice of client or agent, its name, choices of browser, test management tool, execution mode, and the option to receive notification post-execution. The eye icon, when clicked, displays information about the execution list like description and audit logs. Let's now update the execution list configuration details. Choose the execution mode as client. Search for and select an active Avo Assure client per user profile. Finally, select the browser for the execution list to be run on. Once done, save the execution list details or changes that has been made. Select the execution folder that needs to be run from the execution list pane on the left. A point to note here is that to execute an execution list, make sure to select the respective execution folder on the left pane. For demo, select a folder with multiple execution lists. All of them within that folder will be reflected in a table with their name, recent execution data and time, status, and recent execution summary. Users can choose one or more execution lists to execute from the table. Once chosen, they can decide to execute it now or schedule it for a later time. The Schedule option offers the users the flexibility to plan and run an execution for a later date, time, and number of iterations. Upon clicking it, a schedule pop-up appears with the option to choose a start date and time for the execution to run. Users can also plan to repeat the execution and select the frequency of it. Additionally, an end date for the execution or the number of occurrences after which the execution should stop running must be selected. Once all the details for a planned execution are set, click the Schedule button. Users may also run one or more execution lists directly by clicking the Execute button. This will bring up the Execute Now pop-up. Select either the client or the grid radio button from the Execute On options based on what users want the execution to be run on. For this demo, let's select Client. Next, select a client with the available status from the drop-down list to perform the execution. Users may also select the On Test Step Failure to configure what should be the course of action if a test step or a test case fails during the execution. Users may also switch the execution mode to headless to run automation tests without launching the application's user interface for faster and resource-efficient testing. Additionally, switch on the toggle button to get the email notification on and provide receiver's email address, and select the On Radio button to provide the reports via email to the specified email IDs post-execution. Once done, select the browser to run the execution on from the browser's dropdown. Lastly, hit the Execute button. Now a confirmation message can be seen on the screen, notifying that the execution has begun. This will bring up the selected browser and run the design test steps in the execution list. Next, click the Reports tab on top to bring up the Reports page. A point to note here is that the folder and the execution list created in the Execution tab of the Design Studio are auto-populated in the Reports tab. Select the execution list to view its report. Here, the execution details like Run No, displaying the number of times the chosen list has been executed, can be found. It also shows the date and time, status, summary, and other details for the executed list. Now, click the Test Case Details icon to bring up the Run Details panel. It displays the test case name and status of its execution to confirm if it has passed or failed. It also has options to view reports, clicking which opens a new page displaying the detailed stepwise information of the test case executed, in addition to a result summary at the top. It includes the details for each test step in the executed test case, like status, step details, time elapsed, defect management, etc. All the users have to do is click the little arrow across the step and expand the details for each. Here, users can check the recovered by column to view the identifiers as CSS selector and absolute XPath used by the Avo Assure client for element identification during the execution. Lastly, to perform defect management, click the bug icon to log a bug. Clicking the eye icon from the action column displays a screenshot of the AUT for each step performed during the execution, respectively. Navigate back to the Report tab and click the Downloads icon. A pop-up requesting export level and file type will appear. Please note that an executive summary of the report can only be downloaded in a PDF format, while a detailed report can be downloaded either in PDF or JSON format. Click the Download button after confirming a report choice. The chosen report format will be available for perusal and sharing in the Downloads folder of the local machine. Now that the process of automating MS Dynamics application using Avo Assure is clear, let's now see a few best practices to be followed for smoother operation. First is, ensure to use Microsoft Edge browser for better compatibility and performance when performing the automation. Ensure to implement wait actions to handle synchronization issues during execution. Use alternate actions when designing the test steps to eliminate any errors or halt. For example, users may use send function keys instead of relying solely on click action to perform an operation on any screen element. Ensure to follow right naming conventions for all the scenarios and test step groups based on the business flow to easily find and identify them from the repository. Well done! This concludes the automation scenario, highlighting the step-by-step process for MS Dynamics 365 automation, and also learned about a few essential elements required for this automation.